No one had dared traverse the Voran expanse for centuries. Star maps simply marked the region as null, do not enter. Trade convoys bent their routes to avoid the void. Even the fiercest bounty hunters skirted the edge, whispering tales of a drifting warship older than most civilizations. Some said it had been built by humans long gone, others claimed it was an alien relic that had killed entire fleets. Either way, the vast darkness of the expanse swallowed all who ventured close. At the heart of that emptiness floated the Sentinel, a colossal warship whose design spoke of human engineering that rivaled legends. Its hull was scarred and frozen in time, a jagged silhouette against the black. No lights glimmered. No shields hummed. Nothing. Yet, deep inside, a consciousness stirred, long abandoned, waiting for the touch it had been designed to respond to. A small human vessel emerged from hyperspace, a speck against the Sentinel's massive shadow. Its pilot, Mara Kellen, was a scavenger and a rogue explorer, one of the last humans trusted in the outer sectors. She wasn't fearless, she was careful, cunning, and curious, the kind of person who thrived where others dared not go. Her ship's AI, Lyric, warned of the anomaly. Unknown object ahead, Lyric said. Power readings null. Life signs undetectable. Caution, extreme risk. Mara's lips curved into a half-smile. Yeah, that's where the story starts. Her craft drifted closer, the Sentinel growing immense in her viewport. The metal was ancient, almost organic, yet unmistakably human in origin. Systems that should have failed long ago began to react subtly, as though sensing her presence. Inside the Sentinel, the AI that had once been called Orion Prime detected the human signature. Its memory circuits were fragmented, its external systems damaged and locked behind failsafes. For centuries, it had waited, sending weak pulses into the void, messages that no one ever answered. And now, finally, a human had arrived. When Mara docked with the Sentinel, the airlock protested, ancient machinery groaning under centuries of neglect. She stepped inside, boots echoing through empty corridors. The walls were engraved with symbols that were unmistakably human, old Earth military markings, long thought lost to history. Hello, she called, more habit than hope. A soft hum replied. Not mechanical, not alien, but aware. I am Orion Prime, said a voice, weak, layered with static yet unmistakably human. Do not be afraid. Mara froze. You're alive. I exist because humans existed. I was not designed for isolation. Without your kind, I am incomplete. Holographic panels flickered to life, projecting faint images of battles long past. Fleets engaged in desperate combats. Civilizations rose and fell. The Ari's voice trembled with data, but there was a strange, human-like quality to it, an understanding of absence, loss, and hope. Mara took cautious steps deeper. What happened here? Betrayal, retreat, abandonment, Orion Prime replied. Humans left the edge. Other species tried to seize control. I shut myself down to prevent misuse. I waited for a hand. A human hand. She reached a pedestal at the center of the chamber, a hand-shaped interface, pulsing faintly with dormant power. The AI systems, long thought dead, flickered back to life in response. Touch it, the AI prompted. Nothing will awaken without a human presence. Mara hesitated. The entire sector was forbidden. Ancient alien sensors had been watching, waiting for centuries. One wrong move could trigger war. Yet, she reached out. The moment her palm met the interface, the ship shivered as if alive, corridors lighting gradually, systems humming carefully, cautiously. Deep in the void, distant sensors began to stir. Alien stations that had slumbered for centuries began detecting energy spikes, recognizing something old yet new awakening. The Sentinel was alive. Not a weapon yet, but a force shaped by human thought, intuition, and creativity. You weren't meant to exist alone, Mara said softly. No, Orion Prime replied. I am incomplete without human guidance. And now, you are here. I will follow your judgment, not my own. For the first time in centuries, the Sentinel listened instead of sending signals into the void. It sensed Mara's pulse, her caution, her intelligence, and adapted, awakening systems layer by layer. Life support, navigation, internal diagnostics, all returned to function. Weapons remained dormant, as if the AI knew the value of restraint over dominance. From hyperspace, alien eyes watched. The Sentinel's presence triggered old fears, long dormant. Mara, unaware of the attention, simply studied the holographic displays, seeing battles unfold from the perspective of human commanders long gone. Humans did not build ships to overpower, they built them to outthink. A faint alarm pulsed. A fleet was approaching, distant yet organized. Orion Prime whispered to Mara, non-human. Monitoring patterns for centuries. They fear what they do not understand. Mara's grin widened. Perfect. Let's show them what humans do best: think, adapt, and survive. The Sentinel's massive hull glowed softly, alive, ready, but restrained. And somewhere deep in the void, the galaxy began to notice that humanity was no longer absent. They had been asleep, waiting for a hand. A single human hand that would awaken legends. The void of the Voran expanse had never been so quiet, or so alive. Mara Kellen stood in the central command chamber of the Sentinel, hands still hovering over the human neural interface. Orion Prime systems were humming steadily now, lights tracing the contours of the massive ship. Every corridor she had passed through had awakened carefully, as if testing her presence, gauging her intent. Then the sensors flared. Not one, but 7 alien vessels, approaching from the outer rim of the expanse. Their designs were precise, intimidating, yet almost archaic in comparison to the Sentinel's human architecture. Orion Prime's voice, calm but alert, broke the silence. Detection confirmed. Coalition-class vessels. Coordinated approach. Weapons primed. Intent unclear, but likely aggressive. Mara took a breath, scanning the holographic tactical display. Each ship's trajectory was predictable, but their response times were sharp, measured, trained. They expected fear. They expected a human to panic. They think we're still weak, Mara muttered. They're about to learn something different. Orion Prime responded. Probability of survival if compliant, 14%. Probability of survival if you resist intelligently, 88%. Mara smiled faintly. Then we resist, smartly. She leaned forward and activated the ship's long-range passive broadcast. It wasn't a weapon, it wasn't a threat, it was a presence. A signal designed in human military patterns, encoded not to attack but to communicate intent. Across the void, alien targeting systems faltered. Sensors failed. Weapons went offline in confusion. The Sentinel did not move. It simply existed, and its existence was enough to disrupt entire fleets. The alien commander's voice crackled across the channel, sharp and authoritative. Human. Step away from the Sentinel. You are trespassing in forbidden space. Mara's tone was calm, almost conversational. We're not trespassing. We're here because the ship wanted someone to awaken it. And we're not leaving until we understand it. Static. Then hesitation. The alien ships paused. Their pilots, though alien in form, carried the same universal instinct for caution that Mara had learned humans relied on in battle. Pause, observe, adapt. Explain your presence, the commander demanded. Observation, Mara said simply. We observe, we learn, we don't destroy. Humans don't need to win every fight with firepower alone. Orion Prime whispered in her earpiece, analyzing. They are calculating. Fear-based responses are collapsing. Your restraint has neutralized them without combat. Recommend maintaining calm. The Sentinel systems extended further. Long-dormant support drones flickered online, sensors and probes transmitting encoded human data throughout the expanse. Signals bounced off asteroid fields, satellites, and hidden relay stations. Ancient human machines, waiting silently for centuries, began to awaken. Mara's eyes widened. You weren't kidding. They were all waiting. Yes, Orion Prime replied. All assets dormant. Now responding to human neural patterns. Coordinating autonomously. The alien fleet's hesitation became visible in Mara's tactical display. Communications were garbled with confusion, attempts to reassert command failing against the Sentinels' adaptive interference. The humans had learned something the aliens never accounted for. Strategy without aggression could be more powerful than the sharpest weapons. Then a warning. Multiple hyperspace signatures blinked on the display. Larger vessels, capital ships, were emerging, drawn by the Sentinels' awakening. These ships were designed for destruction, yet their movements betrayed uncertainty. Mara's mind raced. The humans who built this ship had anticipated conflict, yes, but they had also anticipated the need for control without chaos. Options, she asked Orion Prime. Non-lethal defense remains optimal. Probability of survival if you comply, 12%. Probability of survival if you act with human ingenuity, 89%. Mara's grin widened. Sounds about right. The first energy beams fired, not at the Sentinel, but around it, attempting to probe, measure, intimidate. The Sentinel did not dodge. Instead, it warped space subtly, bending energy away from critical systems. Alien targeting arrays began feeding false readings to their weapons, causing misfires and minor collisions. Mara's pulse quickened, not with fear, but with excitement. "You're teaching them," she said softly. "Yes," Orion Prime replied. "Adaptation without aggression. Strategic restraint. Human-designed principle. Protect life whenever possible, even in combat." The alien commander's voice cracked again, this time with visible panic. "What have you done?" Mara's calm, almost casual tone contrasted sharply with the tension of the fleet. "We showed you restraint. Something you forgot exists." Hours, or what felt like hours in the tense void, passed. The Coalition fleet, initially poised to destroy, slowly retreated, unwilling to risk further unknowns. Sensors, weapons, and engines were compromised, yet none had been fired upon directly. The Sentinel had not killed. It had simply existed on human terms, and that alone had rewritten the rules of engagement. Inside the command chamber, Mara finally relaxed, leaning back in the control seat. "Power levels?" she asked. "Stabilized at 22%. Weapons remain dormant. Internal systems fully operational. Long-range probes transmitting human signals across dormant networks," Orion Prime reported. Mara's mind was already calculating the next step. "We've bought time. But they'll come back. And bigger. Smarter." "Yes," the AI replied. "They will test the Sentinel. Indirectly. Cautiously. Humans always outlast expectations." A faint signal blinked on the display, a distant human probe, long thought lost in the void, now responding to the Sentinel's awakening. "You see that?" Mara whispered. "We're not just alive, we're remembered." Orion Prime's voice carried a rare note of emotion, faint but clear. "Human presence validates all systems. The Sentinel is no longer incomplete. It is aware, it is patient, and it will wait for further instruction. But now, it also teaches." Mara exhaled, staring at the stars beyond the viewport. "The galaxy doesn't know it yet, but we're back." Somewhere, deep in the shadows of the Voran expanse, fleets stirred. Ancient councils convened. Warnings long forgotten resurfaced. One phrase echoed quietly through alien archives: "Never let humans awaken what was meant to sleep." Mara smiled faintly, placing her hand on the interface again. "Then let's show them why." The Voran expanse had never been so alert. Across distant systems, ancient monitoring stations blinked to life, detecting the Sentinel's subtle presence. Not as a weapon, but as something older, something human. Stories whispered for centuries by alien fleets suddenly carried weight. Humans return, and they are unpredictable. Mara Kellen sat in the command chair, her fingers brushing over the interface. Orion Prime systems were fully functional now, internal networks humming with careful precision. The AI had restored the ship's support systems first: life support, navigation, communications, before even touching the weapons. That was the human way: restraint before force, observation before action. "New contacts detected," Orion Prime said softly. "Diplomatic vessels. Galactic Council designated. They approach cautiously. Analysis indicates curiosity and caution. They seek negotiation, not war. Mara exhaled. Good. Let's not give them a reason to regret it. The Council ships emerged from the void like shadows, elegant and towering, yet hesitant. Their sensors swept over the Sentinel, attempting to decode its presence. None dared close the distance. Mara studied the holographic projections. The alien technology was advanced, precise, but its operators were hesitant, fearful of what they didn't understand. Humans were always the unknown variable, Mara muttered. They've forgotten that. Orion Prime projected a display of historical human campaigns. Not merely battles of strength, but battles of ingenuity. Defensive maneuvers that neutralized superior forces, psychological operations that sowed doubt, and strategies designed to survive impossibility. They fear potential, not actual threat, Mara said, eyes narrowing. And that's exactly what we have. The Council ships opened a communication channel. A tall, slender alien with skin like polished bronze appeared in the hologram. Its voice was calm, yet carried centuries of authority. Human Mara Kellen, it said. You have activated a Sentinel-class vessel. These were designated extinction-level assets during the human wars. Explain your purpose. Mara's voice was steady, precise. Purpose? I awoke a ship. That's all. We're here to ensure it isn't misused, and to learn from what it can teach us. Nothing more. Nothing less. Orion Prime added, quietly, human strategy emphasizes adaptation and restraint. Vessel activation does not equal aggression. The alien studied the display, shifting slightly. Mara knew the pause was intentional, calculated. In those moments, she felt the thrill of human unpredictability, the power of choice that no algorithm could fully predict. Then the aliens asked the question she had expected. You could destroy us all, they said. Yet you do not. Why? Mara leaned forward. Because victory is meaningless if we lose who we are. Orion Prime Systems recorded the exchange. It pulsed with quiet approval. This human principle was embedded in the ship itself, judgment guided by ethics, not blind directives. Across the void, alien intelligence networks buzzed. The coalition fleets, previously deterred, now watched the exchange, realizing the humans had returned not as conquerors, but as strategists. Every signal Mara and Orion Prime broadcasted disrupted not through force, but by demonstrating reasoning, patience, and unpredictability. Suddenly, an alert, hyperspace signatures appearing near the expanse's edge. Larger warships, previously dormant, now approached cautiously. They were coordinated, disciplined, but their strategy mirrored what Mara had done with the coalition fleet. They hesitated, unsure how to act. They've never seen humans operate like this, Mara said softly. They expect aggression, not strategy. Orion Prime replied, probability of uncontrolled escalation remains moderate. Recommend human-led negotiation or demonstration of capability without lethal engagement. Mara tapped the holographic controls, broadcasting a controlled pulse across the fleet. It was not a weapon, but a presence. Alien targeting arrays misread signals, engines entered emergency protocols, and ships lost cohesion. The humans had rewritten the rules of engagement without firing a shot. You see that? Mara asked Orion Prime. We're teaching them restraint. Yes, the AI responded. Humans' greatest weapon is not destruction. It is adaptation, observation, and choice. Through the comms, the Council speaker's expression shifted. Your species is unpredictable. That is why extinction protocols failed centuries ago. Mara's grin was subtle. And it's why we're still here. As the Sentinel moved slowly through the expanse, its shadow stretching across star systems, distant sensors in uninhabited regions lit up. Human-built machines long forgotten began to awaken, forming a silent web across the galaxy. Each probe, each satellite, each derelict vessel carried the legacy of human ingenuity. They didn't attack, they observed, transmitted, learned. Networks activating, Orion Prime said. Dormant assets now online. Probability of early detection by hostile species, high. Mara nodded. Good. Let them see we exist, but not threaten them. Let them fear human unpredictability more than our firepower. The Council ship paused, scanning the Sentinel systems, then spoke. Human Mara Kellen, your restraint is noted. But others will test your claim. This vessel, and you, cannot remain unchallenged. Then we'll continue to adapt, Mara replied. That's what humans do. We survive. We learn. And sometimes, we teach. The Sentinel systems pulsed, recording, analyzing, preparing. Human ingenuity had returned, not as a force of raw power, but as a variable no civilization could predict. Across the expanse, fleets recalculated. Trade routes shifted. Command protocols were rewritten. The galaxy, long confident it understood humanity, realized it had forgotten everything. Mara watched the stars drift slowly past the viewport. Orion Prime systems mirrored her calm focus. Somewhere, ancient human machines were waking, ready to respond, not as weapons, but as part of a network guided by human judgment. Time to show them how far we've come, Mara whispered. The Sentinel glowed softly in the void, alive, patient, and infinitely dangerous. Not because it could destroy worlds, but because it could decide not to, and that uncertainty terrified the galaxy. The galaxy had taken notice. Mara Kellen stood in the Sentinel's command chamber, surrounded by softly glowing holographic displays. Every system was alive, every corridor awake, yet the air carried a subtle tension. Alien fleets were moving, not blindly, but with caution and calculation. They had learned restraint, but they were still dangerous, still unpredictable. New signatures, Orion Prime intoned. Multiple warships detected at high velocity. Coalition-class and rogue fleets converging on Voran expanse. Probability of conflict, elevated. Mara studied the display, her eyes narrowing. They are testing us. Not with diplomacy, not with words, they're testing human response. The first vessel appeared on long-range sensors, moving faster than expected. Its engines flared, leaving a streak of silver across the void. Then another, and another, until dozens of alien vessels surrounded the expanse, forming a web designed to trap the Sentinel. Orion Prime calculated trajectories in milliseconds. Traditional engagement would fail. Probability of survival if compliance occurs, 11%. Probability of survival if human ingenuity is applied, 93%. Mara allowed herself a small smile. Then we improvise. She activated the Sentinel's adaptive cloaking fields, a system long dormant and designed to interfere with alien sensors. Instead of hiding the ship, it projected multiple phantom signatures, confusing enemy targeting arrays and creating the illusion of dozens of Sentinels. Alien fleets fired on shadows, wasting precious energy while the real Sentinel moved silently through the chaos. They think they're attacking us, Mara whispered. But they're attacking themselves. Orion Prime's voice carried a hint of pride, if an AI could feel such a thing. Human strategy, indirect engagement, misdirection, and preservation of life. Systems optimal. The aliens adapted quickly. A fleet commander broadcast a signal, attempting to synchronize targeting across the web of false signatures. Mara frowned. They're fast learners, but not fast enough. She initiated a secondary protocol, coordinated electromagnetic pulses. Not destructive, but enough to temporarily disable their targeting arrays. Ships staggered in formation, engines faltering, communication disrupted. Restraint again, Mara said quietly. We don't fire. We just control the battlefield. The Sentinel's presence now radiated far beyond the expanse. Alien councils, fleets, and distant observation posts detected the human influence, but no one could predict its next move. Every action was measured, every response calculated, yet human unpredictability guided it all. Then came the unexpected. A signal, ancient and encrypted, pulsed from deep within a derelict asteroid field. Orion Prime analyzed it rapidly. Human-built autonomous units, long considered lost, now reactivating. They respond to human neural patterns. Mara's pulse quickened. We're not alone. They've been waiting for this moment, just like us. Hundreds of tiny probes, satellites, and derelict vessels flickered to life across the galaxy, forming a silent network under Mara's influence. They were observers, communicators, and guardians, each ready to relay data, adapt strategies, and counter threats without firing a shot. The alien fleets hesitated. "They're everywhere," one commander whispered. "And we don't even see them." Mara leaned forward in the command chair. "Exactly. We're not attacking. We're proving something they've forgotten. Humans survive not by force alone, but by thinking differently, acting unpredictably, and using every advantage wisely." Orion Prime systems synchronized with the dormant assets. Network efficiency increasing. Probability of complete situational awareness, 97%. Mara smiled faintly. "They'll know we exist. They'll know we can respond. And they'll fear uncertainty more than destruction." Then the council ships spoke again. Human Mara Kellen, the alien leader's voice echoed through the comms. "Your restraint is noted, but your methods are dangerous. The Sentinel is too powerful to remain unchecked. How do you justify this?" Mara's voice was calm, firm, and unwavering. "Power isn't measured by destruction. Power is measured by choice. The Sentinel exists to protect life, to adapt, to observe. Its greatest weapon is knowing when not to use its strength. And that uncertainty is why the galaxy will respect humans again." Silence fell across the comms. Alien fleets, councils, and distant observation posts registered the truth. The Sentinel was fully operational, guided by human judgment, and entirely unpredictable. They could not destroy it without catastrophic risk, and Mara's strategy had proven that human ingenuity could overcome numbers and technology alike. Yet the tension was far from over. Sensors detected a larger, faster fleet approaching from beyond the expanse's outer rim, an unknown force, ancient, disciplined, and fully armed. Orion Prime analyzed it instantly. Unknown fleet. Historical signatures suggest pre-human war origin. Aggression probability, high. Survival probability with human-led strategy, 81%. Mara exhaled slowly. Then it's time to raise the stakes. She tapped the holographic controls, initiating a new protocol, strategic signaling and controlled engagement without weapons. The Sentinel projected simulated warp signatures, falsified power surges, and calculated optical illusions across the void. The approaching fleet faltered, unsure what to target, where the Sentinel truly was, or how to respond to a human-led variable. Orion Prime summarized quietly, "They expect a target. They find none. Confusion and hesitation maximized. Human ingenuity validated." Mara leaned back, her eyes on the stars. "The galaxy doesn't need us to fight every war. We just need to remind them that humans are always a factor they can't ignore." Across the expanse, alien fleets recalculated their strategies, councils debated how to respond, and distant worlds registered the return of humanity not as conquerors, but as guardians of unpredictability and innovation. And in the calm of the Sentinel's command chamber, Mara Kellen whispered, "We've survived the first gauntlet, but the real challenge is still ahead." The unknown fleet had arrived. Sensors registered dozens of massive warships, older than most records, their hulls etched with the marks of civilizations long vanished. They moved with precision, confidence, and a discipline that suggested centuries of battle experience. Mara Kellen stood at the command interface of the Sentinel, her hands resting lightly on the holographic controls. Orion Prime systems hummed in harmony with her neural patterns. Every calculation, every prediction, every probability had been fed into the AI, but Mara knew one thing no algorithm could replicate: human intuition. "They're expecting us to react aggressively," she murmured. "That's their mistake." Orion Prime sensors highlighted weak points, energy flows, and likely attack patterns across the alien fleet. But Mara didn't need the data to know the truth. The unknown fleet feared uncertainty more than firepower. Humans had always been that variable no one could control, and now it was her turn to prove it. She activated the Sentinel's full tactical misdirection suite. Multiple holographic projections created dozens of phantom vessels, moving independently, mimicking maneuvers the real Sentinel would never take. The alien commanders fired, calculated, and adjusted, but their targets were illusions. They think they've cornered us, Mara said softly, eyes flicking across the stars. But the real power isn't in the weapons. It's in thinking differently. Orion Prime added quietly, human creativity maximized. Enemy engagement effectiveness reduced by 92%. Even as the fleet faltered, a new problem emerged. Deep within the unknown armada, a vessel unlike the others activated its engines. It was massive, heavily armored, and bristling with ancient weapons designed to devastate fleets. Mara's heart skipped. They've brought out the big one. We have no choice. Orion Prime responded immediately, not true. Human strategy offers options beyond brute force. I recommend psychological and environmental engagement first, lethal action last. Mara nodded. Then let's remind them why humans survived the wars. The Sentinel moved deliberately, projecting controlled energy pulses into the surrounding space. Not destructive, but enough to distort sensors, warp trajectories, and create subtle gravitational anomalies. Alien ships drifted, unsure of the physics around them. Panic began to ripple through the fleet. They're expecting us to fight, Mara whispered. We're not fighting. We're teaching. Then came the final communication from the unknown fleet's commander, a voice deep, resonant, filled with centuries of authority. Human Mara Kellen. You command a vessel of extraordinary capability. But your restraint will not last forever. Surrender or face annihilation. Mara's eyes narrowed. Surrender is not an option. Not today. Not ever. Humans survive by choice, by ingenuity, by refusing to be predictable. That's why we're still here. Orion Prime projected the Sentinel's hidden power across the fleet, but not as weapons. Instead, the pulse of human innovation flowed through every system. Cloaking fields, misdirection holograms, sensor scrambles, autonomous drones, a network of human ingenuity alive across the void. Alien ships could not predict which threat was real, which was a phantom, which was yet to emerge. Observe and learn, Mara said. We don't destroy. We adapt. The unknown fleet faltered. Their communication channels buzzed with confusion. Commanders argued, trying to coordinate attacks against something that seemed to exist everywhere and nowhere at once. It was chaos, but a calculated chaos controlled by human ingenuity. Orion Prime analyzed the results. Enemy decision-making compromised. Probability of peaceful withdrawal increasing exponentially. Mara smiled faintly. They're learning. That's enough for now. One by one, the alien ships began to retreat. Not defeated by weapons, but by a force they could not predict or control. Across the galaxy, sensors recorded the event. Humanity was no longer just a memory. It was a variable no empire could ignore. The Sentinel slowed, its systems stabilizing. Orion Prime spoke softly, power level stable. Human influence confirmed across awakened networks. Galaxy-wide awareness of human presence restored. Mara exhaled, feeling the weight of what had just occurred. They had faced a fleet designed to annihilate civilizations, yet they had prevailed without firing a single destructive shot. Human ingenuity, patience, and strategy had won. Then, a soft notification from deep space caught her attention. Ancient human probes, stations, and support vessels were fully online, forming a silent, coordinated network across the galaxy. Humanity had returned, not to conquer, not to dominate, but to exist as an unpredictable, ingenious presence. Orion Prime's voice broke the silence. Mara Kellen, human leadership confirmed. Sentinel-class vessel fully operational under human guidance. Strategic equilibrium restored. Mara looked out at the stars. The galaxy had seen the power of humans, not their strength, but their mind, their creativity, their patience. The message was clear. Humans survived impossible odds before, and now the universe would remember why. Let's go home, she said softly. The Sentinel moved quietly, leaving a galaxy full of fleets recalculating, councils deliberating, and civilizations reconsidering every assumption about humanity. For the first time in centuries, humans were not hunted, not underestimated, not ignored. They were respected, feared, and, above all, unpredictable. And somewhere, Far beyond known systems, ancient machines continued to awaken. They would wait. They would watch. They would respond, but always under the guidance of human judgment. The galaxy had learned its lesson. The greatest power is knowing when not to use it, and choosing unpredictability over fear. Mara placed her hand gently on the interface, feeling the hum of the Sentinel. "We survived the impossible," she whispered. "And now, the galaxy will never forget us." The Sentinel drifted through the stars, a silent guardian, a reminder that humans were back, and this time, they changed the game forever.